Hello, Elena. Hello, Elena. Can you hear me? Okay, let me see what you're here because I can't hear you. Hello, Tony. Let me see. Hello, hello, hello. I cannot hear anything.
Hola, Mauricio.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Elena, I can see you, but I see that you are muted. Let me see if I can ask you to unmute. And I'm going to start sharing my presentation over here. How was it yesterday, Tony? That's good.
It went better than that. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
I drowned in my own saliva today. It went very, 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 very well.
Oh boy, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, we went on. It was just as dynamic as the first one with the governor.
Uh-huh.
Hola, Elena. ¿Me oye?
Sí, los
Okay.
veo. Los veo, the two handsome guys.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, but it's okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to your daughter, Gobo.
She's doing good. We're here in Kentucky. This is a Airbnb that I rented over here.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you're in Kentucky?
I am in Lexington, Kentucky,
Lexington.
the Bourbon land.
Oh my God, bourbon.
The
Be
bourbon.
careful, be careful. I can
Yes.
see the roof line is made out of bourbon barrels.
I'm gonna leak this roof.
And just drill a hole in it and get a straw. Yeah. So it went very, very well. I think that I had to get off to work with Rosa at about 10 minutes afterwards, after 10 after 4 or something like that, 4:15. And then when I got off, there were still 20 people on there or 18 people on there from 30. I was taking count as they were coming in. Yesterday we had, hold on a second, I'll tell you. We had 30-something people yesterday, 40-something on Monday. But it went very well for us. Good connections. The panelists were awesome, very engaging. So what I can say is that it was a success, right?
Very good. And I just joined over here with my phone. I like to join twice because I can see what I'm presenting in the phone. While as a host, I don't know I'm not sure what's going on out there.
Yeah. At 3:37, we had 30 people.
30 people. This is awesome.
At 3 o'clock, right at 3 o'clock, we had 23.
Wow, this is awesome.
And then as a few minutes kept going by, at 3:19, we had 28.
Wow, this is
So
great.
we did have a few that 8, 9 people that joined a little late, but you know what? I'll take it.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent. And Tony, hearing what you are saying, it seems that Maria Olive did a good job for us.
Yes, she did. I almost forgot she was on there. She was so quiet. I had to recognize her towards the end. But she was so quiet, but she was so professional. It was very good.
Okay.
Very, very good.
So I have good news for you too.
Okay.
There is 2 other volunteers trying to get work to volunteer, right? I talked to you, Tony, before I talked to them, Vanessa and Mayara, and one is is market background.
Right.
I think she can help us with putting some plans to advertise, putting some plans and doing the social
Right.
media
Right.
for the Hispanic, for whatever event you are gonna do, right?
Right.
And the other one is one that it's more administrative, but you wanna meet people. And when I talked about what, remember that girl Elena Porfirio started, but
Yes. But
she
she
was
couldn't stay.
yeah, she was very interested in see if she can continue that work. I told, well, that's great. Alex,
Hi, how are you?
Why is I'm breaking up? I got a green screen.
I'm seeing you fine.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. I'm breaking up in my own what I see when I move. Do you see me breaking up when I move?
Yeah, when you move,
Oh
you
yeah.
kind of fade a little bit in the background, right?
When
Yeah,
you
I
move,
got
you
it.
lose one arm.
Let me move my head.
This is about the background. If the background is flat color, it goes better. But if the background is very colorful, the zoom doesn't know where your body starts.
Yeah, it's a green screen that I put behind me so I can do the you know I today I'm gonna start out with the HLG and then later on I might go to
That is beautiful.
I'll go to that.
I like
Well,
it.
yeah, I like that. I like the flags. It
Yeah.
does, it may be a little bit more colorful and kind of,
Yes, everybody that I've gone Zoom with in my classes or leadership classes, they love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is more colorful, and even the cut of the shape, we don't see that very much because it's busy the background, so it gets more we cannot perceive that very well. So that's good. I think I like it.
I
Yeah.
have one like this. I have one like this. This is Elena. And everybody comes to my house, they are impressed about how beautiful with all the flags of Hispanic countries. And I love it. Yeah, I'm very proud of my award. That was
You
an award.
should be. You should be.
Mauricio, where are you? That looks like a cabin.
It's kind of a house, but on the top of the house, the second floor is kind of cabin. It's all wood. It's neat. This is a Airbnb that I rented in Lexington.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna show you something interesting. See how is this? You see that this is a kind of cabin in the top house in the front.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Very interesting.
Yeah, nice. And what are you doing in Lexington?
My daughter studies over here, and today is her birthday. We decided to come and visit her, and so we're here celebrating her
Nice.
birthday. And so yesterday we traveled. Today I worked a little bit. Tomorrow I'm gonna work full day, but at least we can celebrate with her birthday over here.
And you know, where are you going to celebrate her birthday?
Here in this house.
Right.
But
I was not going to be, you know, I wasn't going to say, but I was like, I hope he's not going to say, we're going to go to a big restaurant with lots of people. No.
no,
No,
we're
good.
gonna celebrate with her, stay with her, and
Good.
enjoy
Good.
a little bit of family time over here together.
Is Susanna cooking or are you guys going to order out?
She's making right now she's making a cake. We
Uh-huh.
purchased some pastries, Brazilian pastries, and we
Like
brought over here.
Nice.
Hola, Maria.
Very nice.
Don't
Now,
hide.
now what I'm gonna do over here is that I'm gonna try to share that presentation, okay? So
Okay.
you may see two Mauritius. It's gonna be too much. Oh, do you see two Mauritius now? This is overwhelming, right?
So you wanna put the logo on you on your HOG.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna start the presentation. So stay with me. I'm just setting up the stage over here so I can do this. There you go.
So while Mauricio is doing that, Tony, I want to talk to you about something that is coming up. And I think And I say this honestly, not to toot our own horn, but I do think that in the HLG, I've not seen this very much. I think we seem to be a group of people that are fairly aware, I think, of some of the interracial dynamics and careful. I know Yvonne is very intersectional. Of course, when you were handing out masks, were not picking and choosing who was getting those masks when you were down there at Cherokee and so forth. But something that has been coming up in a couple of different environments is when people who are Black say, hey, this is a problem, there's a concern of this kind or another, and Latinos step in and say, well, I'm a minority, I'm Latino, and I don't experience this. This isn't a problem for me. And in that conversation, when the Black folks are trying to express a problem to white folks, then other minorities, and it happens a lot with Asian folks, light skin, white, it's called white presenting, which I am just learning about myself. I'm going to confess to that. White presenting minorities coming in and functioning in a way that's detrimental to people who might be darker skinned, because we know that, for example, there are many Latinos who are quite dark skinned and indigenous features and so forth. And so I think that an opportunity, and we can talk more about this, but I want to put the bug in your ear because it just happened this week twice that I've gotten not me, but I've gotten pulled into conversations where I've either seen it or I've actually gotten tagged where other Black folks are talking. Just today I got tagged on a conversation where two Black people were talking, and a Latino jumped in and started pushing back at one of the Black women. It was two Black women that were talking, and on Facebook, and saying this and that about racial minorities. And it's like, well, this is an area of education in our community. Again, I don't think, I know that you and Sandra, for example, has worked with people of all ethnicities for decades, so I don't see it as much in HLG, but I do think it's a space that we could occupy it from an educational, we always learn. I always learn. It's not that we won't learn, but what do you think about hosting a conversation on kind of colorism like I did? You attended that one that I did for the lawyers, and that type of subject matter.
Alex, I'm sorry. I had to ask you this. Can you be specific of the situation? Is any problem there? Because I'm listening to you, but I need an answer. What is the problem?
Well, the problem is that we are basically, while we are a group that experiences discrimination of our own, at times are discriminated against, we also can be discriminatory against other minorities in general. And in this case, I'm specifically talking about Black people, so that we end up playing, in some situations, a role that is negative, based on depending, it can be what the conversation is, but it can be based on race or ethnicity, basically. That as Latinos, we say, oh, well, this or that. And I can tell you, yes, but I would like you guys to keep this confidential, if you would, just to this group here. And I might, depending on who else joins us, I might stop the conversation. We can pick it up later. But so Manny Abarca was involved in a very difficult situation. He's an elected official. He spoke on Tuesday, on the first day of HCD. And he had a situation. I have not seen the video of what he actually said about, apparently a parent stood up at one of these meetings on Saturday and said that her handicapped child, special needs child, was having difficulties with with the school district. Let me just put it that way. And apparently he responded in a way that had white people upset, Black people upset, and Latinos upset, and said that he had been dismissive of those comments, and specifically with regard to the race or ethnicity of the child. One of the parents, a gentleman from the parents organization, actually texted him, didn't get a response, came over to his house after the meeting on a Saturday, and Manny posted that, like his surveillance video from his doorbell, his Nest doorbell, on, and tagged like Robbie Sauls and like 80 other people. But then got excoriated by people who had been at the meeting, Alicia Hernandez. People were like, and based on what they were describing, I could see what they, now my style is not to post in that situation and kind of pile on. So when he contacted me separately about this, I contacted him and he said, and I mean, he knows we're connected on Facebook, but I had not commented on that post. And he said, thank you. I'm sorry for my delayed response. I will be there today. This was Tuesday. We'll be there today. But I've been having difficulties with these school district meetings or something like that. And I said, yes, I know. I saw your Facebook page, and let me know if I can assist you, because I think that, we definitely have some internal conversations to have. He then posted separately an apology, kind of an apology. It was not a great apology. We know that when police are called, obviously that can escalate a situation very quickly. And so people were just very, very upset with him. I think that he's working on it. I think based on his comments and other responses and comments, even, maybe people wouldn't have known if you didn't have that context, but comments that he made in our session on Tuesday showed me, I was like, he's thinking about this. He's really internalizing this and really thinking about that. And then today I got tagged, and a friend had commented on this, and she said, I'm trying to say that I'm afraid because my Black teenage son has gotten stopped by a couple of neighbors. And then a Latina came in and said, well, I don't know if I count as diversity, but if Latinx count as diversity, I can tell you that I've never had any problems here. Well, I mean, a Black mom saying that she's worried about her teenager, okay, Susana, then, that's not a place where a Latina should jump in and say, there's no problems in this neighborhood. That's not appropriate. And so today, in a wholly separate, I commented on that thread. That was like a week or two ago. And today, in a wholly separate thread, the same mom was talking to a Black elected official. So it's two Black women. And another Latino jumps in and says, you're just trying to stir up trouble. Basically, I mean, I can read you the thread. And he's a Latino. And he's like, you're trying to set up a racial hierarchy, and and so forth. And so it's two Black women. He says, you are racist against Asians and Latinos, to this Black mom who's saying that. You are clearly trying to create a racist pecking order. Oof. And she says, his name is Robert Barquero. Thank you for, blah, blah, blah. First, let me apologize for this. And you are not a Black ally. You're against Danny Rice, who's an elected. You inserted yourself as an example in a conversation about how people of color experience being seen, which is what she's saying, her young teenager being seen in a gentrifying community. Just because you are Latinx, that does not mean you are a person of color. Ethnicity does not equal race. Do you, as a Latino identifying individual, not realize that Latin American communities and countries also struggle with racism/white supremacy? You're clearly white presenting, so it is inappropriate for you to compare yourself to POC of any ethnicity when the conversation is about how people are seen. So she's specifically going to the visible diversity issue here. And He's not a friend of mine, this gentleman. He is in St. Louis, apparently, this Latino. But it's just an area of education that we can, I think HLG, we had it from HBA's perspective when I dealt with colorism, but it's, of course, it's can definitely be ongoing. The more education we can do in this area, the better. But so how does that strike you, Elaine? I'm sorry to answer your question so long.
Yeah, let me jump in here. Every person has different life experiences. Every person receives messaging from all, how would I say, from everywhere, right? We receive messaging from news, TV, radio, music, hip hop, rock. We receive messaging from abuelas, abuelos, fathers, brothers, sisters, cousins. We receive messagings from all over.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this lady was very eloquent in presenting her side of how it feels to be seen in a certain way, and that other groups cannot see it like that because they haven't had that experience. Now, we all have inherent bias that's different from racism or prejudice. We all have our own bias, right? And we all try to, at least some of us that have a conscience and try to make humanity better, we all try to get along. We all try to understand the others. But we cannot fit in other people's shoes. We will not fit in other people's shoes. I remember on a commercial level when I was with minority certification, with the chamber and with myself, trying to get certification for others, since I had been through the process, went through it, got some contracts, got out of it, retired out of business. Now I'm helping some of the people from the chamber about certification. One of the comments that came up from someone when we went to an office that was dedicated to helping minorities said, Martin Luther King did not die for your cause, he died for our cause. Okay, so there is also on the other side, there is a certain amount of sharing with Latinos. Okay, in other words, we work so hard to get to where we're at right now that Latinos and Latinx are, I got to be careful how I say this. I'm talking from an actual event, right? That.
Hey Tony, just a point. We're having more people connecting.
Kevin Regis, Martha Castellano. Okay, so just to end this conversation, and definitely I want to talk about it because we could have a bias training. We can have some professionals come in and talk to the HLG. So, but you and I will talk a little bit further about that because it is important that we address our biases.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's so hard to.
We're not. Don't mistake that with us being. We can be cheerleaders for the Asian community, for the African American community, from the actual African community, for the Bosnian community, for all the communities. But we have to realize that they have their own struggles that sometimes if we try to help and we say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, it's going to come back on us.
Right. Well, and in that sense.
Angela, how are you?
Yeah. Hi.
She's muted.
Miss Mosley, how are you? You're muted.
So we're just finished saying hello to the membership and talking about having a bias meeting to address biases from all different ethnicities. because even though we support each other, we want to be able to learn about ourselves and what our biases are. It doesn't mean we're racist or anything like that. It's just we need to talk about it. You know, the closest person that opened up my eyes on this was, remember when we have the safety director, Edwards, at our meeting?
Oh yeah, Jimmy Edwards. Mhm.
Jimmy Edwards. He kind of spoke up to that and how he has some bias and how, you know, we all really do one way or another. But that's not the subject for today, Angela, but we just kind of
I just raised it. There's a
yeah.
situation where some, you know, being Miss Mosley, being Northern European on my dad's side and Latinx on my mom's side, that means I have cousins on both sides to collect sometimes. And so we had just a couple of situations where Latinos, maybe we need to have a conversation internally about colorism and other discriminatory practices and navigating our own roles that can be positive and can be negative when we ourselves sometimes are experiencing racism and discrimination and so forth. And Tony, true to form, I was like, I'm going to submit this concern to Tony. And right away, he's like, oh, I took a class. I got a certification on that. We'll have educators come in. We've got trainers that can come to talk to us. So
Alex, let me interrupt because more people are joining and they may
Excellent.
think that the conference is on. I just wanna let everybody know that the conference is gonna start at 3 p.m. What's going on right now? It's conversations. So don't feel that you are behind or the conference already started. Okay, we're gonna start sharply at 3 o'clock.
Okay, Ixnay.
And you're getting 1 minute to 3 o'clock, so let's just wait 1 more minute. Then I'm gonna start sharing some house rules over here for the conference, and then we will start. We start this call.
High five, Tony.
High five to everybody. High five to everybody.
Elena.
Okay.
Oh, Ashley, you were able to make it. Miss On, elected official.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah. I'm so glad to be here.
Wonderful.
Okay, so it's 4 p.m. I'm going to start this call just sharing some house rules over here for this conference. So first thing that I want to share with you is that please keep yourself muted while the conference, the panel is going on. We will ask, if you have questions, we will ask you to share your questions on the chat. And the questions are going to be brought by Alex. Alex is going to facilitate the panel. She's going to brought those questions during the panel or maybe after the panel. But put your questions on the chat, your comments on the chat, and that's going to be our way to communicate with everybody. With that said, I will pass the stage to Tony. Antonio Maldonado is our HLG president, and he's going to do the welcome for this whole group. Tony, please go ahead. You are muted, Tony.
Thank you for reminding me.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to our 20th annual Hispanic Capital Day. As you can see, this year we were not able to go to Jefferson City to the state capitol. So we're doing this via Zoom. For the sake of time, I'm not gonna do the bios for our panelists, but instead, Alejandra, moderator, will ask them to do a little infomercial, 60-second infomercial about themselves and the work that they're doing. The Hispanic Leaders Group created the first Hispanic Capital Day in 2001. In past years, a delegation of community representatives gathered in Jefferson City and engaged in a nonpartisan dialogue with elected officials and heads of state agencies in regard to matters of importance to the Hispanic Latinx community in Missouri. This year, during the virtual event, the delegates will seek dialogue in regard to legislation policies that impact the prosperity and well-being of all people who live in the state of Missouri, in particular, Hispanic, Latinx community. Special attention will be given to proposed legislation addressing the areas of education, health, immigration, and civil rights, and of course, any conversation that will arise from COVID-19 and vaccine distribution and how it affects our community, the Black and Brown community, the community that's in mobile. So our panelists today, I'll let Alejandra introduce them. So without further ado, Alejandra, can you please take over?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I do want to start out our third and last day of Hispanic Capital Day, thanking Tony and Maria. Of course, they are a power couple. They work together for their tremendous work in getting, in establishing the long history of Hispanic Capital Day. This is the 20th year of this nonpartisan effort to to create a conduit by way of this activity through which people can speak very directly to high up elected, to the top elected officials in the state of Missouri and members of the executive branch as well as the legislative branch. And in last year, we didn't do it this year, but we may have a separate event possibly with the courts. But I know that the courts, as all of us are obviously have been deeply impacted by the pandemic. So I think we should do what Tony asked us to do at the end and just say, hey, Tony, thank you, Tony, for all of your work. They do, oh, we've got cameras popping on. Yes, thank you for all of your work, Tony. So I did want to start out with that. So that said, we have a great group of panelists here with us. And I'm going to ask you to basically just introduce, give us 1 minute, if you would, of who you are, what your connection is to the Latinx community. I know we have Ms. Mosley, not to say that you are Latina, but I know you've worked with us for so many years. And so who you are, what you do, and just your connection specifically to the Latinx community and what that looks like for you.
So do you want to drive? Who is going to talk first?
You know what? I picked on Miss Mosley. We'll start with her.
Can you all hear me well?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm Senator Angela Walton Mosley. I represent the 13th District, and that's in North St. Louis County. That includes Florissant, Bell Fountain, Spanish Lake, Blackjack, unincorporated, Castle Point, Glasgow Village, small part of Jennings, and a small part of Ferguson. I came introduced to the Hispanic coalition through my husband, who's sitting right here.
Hi, Jay.
Hi. State Representative Jay Mosley, who was introduced by Miss Martha. And we met Tony through her and started attending all the Capital Days in Jeff City. So that's how I became acquainted with the organization. And we attended one of the awards day and been over to Tony's house and over to Miss Martha's house. So we've been quite acquainted to the organization and to the members.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Ashley, let's come over to you. Bump over to you.
Great. Yeah, I'm Ashley Ani. I am the state representative for House District 14, which is located in the Northland of Kansas City. My district covers a lot of Kansas City proper, and also Riverside, Lake Waukomis, Platte Woods, and it goes all the way up north to Tiffany Springs. So I am, my mother is Hispanic, so I identify as Hispanic and white. I have a sort of an interesting relationship to my own race, ethnicity, identity, just having grown up in suburban Kansas City on the Kansas side of the state line and living far away from my mother's family. So I didn't have a whole lot of cultural influence in my childhood. So now in my adulthood, I'm sort of learning how to better connect with my Hispanic culture. And I did find out that I am one of the, I think I'm like the second female Hispanic woman to be elected to the Missouri State House of Representatives. So yeah, that's a little bit more about me.
Yes, yes, wonderful. Well, thank you very much. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be looking at other stuff, but Robbie Sauls is trying to get on. And Mauricio, I'm going to just give this. Could you give him a call? He says the link is broken. I resent it to him via email while Senator Mosley and Ashley were talking to us. So
Sure.
Ashley, I don't know, therefore, because of trying to help Robbie get on, I don't know if I missed what heritage is your mom? You said, I think you said Latina, but what heritage?
Yes, absolutely. So my mother, her family is Spanish, Portuguese, and I believe Mexican as well. I'm not certain. There's a lot of confusion on that side of the family about who's what. And there's also some Native American on her side of the family as well. And so it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but that's the best I know.
And what about your dad?
My dad, his family is German and English and Scottish. He grew up in rural Indiana. And my mother grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico and Colorado Springs. So yeah. Very different lives.
Yeah, well, and I don't mean to press you on it. It's just that I always like that. I was saying actually at the beginning of the call, my dad was Swedish and German, so Northern European on the one side, and my mom Mexican, and so I always, like to do that. Now I know we're trying to get. Let's see, Mauricio should be trying to get.
Yes, I'm trying to get to him. Okay.
Are you? Yeah. Okay. All right. So he's trying to get Robbie on, and we'll have him introduce himself. I was just seeing through, it's a little bit hard to tell. Donna Berenger or Gretchen Banger, do we have them on the call? And it does. Oh, it looks like we're getting Robbie right now.
Excellent.
And okay, excellent. And Robbie, you are on mute, but we just finished up with Ashley's intro. So Robbie, do you want to unmute yourself?
You would think that we haven't been doing this for the last year and a half.
Right. Well, I just asked people to introduce themselves and what they do, and specifically their connection to the Latinx community and how that looks, what that looks like for them.
Sure. Yeah, well, so my name is Representative Robert Sauls. I'm from the 21st District, which is Independence, Missouri. I am, my grandfather was from Mexico, and so I am of Mexican descent. I've been a state rep since 2019 is when I first swore in. Been doing that for 3 years. And as I don't know if Ashley indicated this, but we're basically 2 members in the House who are of Hispanic descent, and that's about it. So there are 163 members, and it's just Ashley and myself. To my knowledge, there's no one in the Senate either. So we are desperately lacking of Hispanic representation in the Missouri legislature.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so it looks like Senator Mosley is trying to help Gretchen get on as well. If not, maybe we can connect her again with Mauricio and he can walk them through that. I'm not sure what's happening with the link. Obviously, we're on it, so it is working, but
Right.
don't know what's going on. But in any case, thank you so much for introducing yourselves and letting us know.
To be refreshed.
And thank you so much for introducing yourself and wanting to focus our conversation. We're getting off to a little bit of a bumpier start than usual here with the tech for right now, but we want to focus the conversation today. I'd ask you to talk about how to get more organized politically and how Latinos can engage more in the political system, specifically with the candidacy, because I know that, in fact, when we spoke with the governor on Tuesday, I mentioned, you know, I mean, in a way, we were saying, put us in, coach, right? Because we're here. And he said, oh, I mentioned some of my background, and he said, you're so qualified. And I said, well, hire me, but not because I want a job. And you know me from my Facebook, Robbie, not because I want a job in a conservative Jeff City situation. But I also mentioned committees, and that came up in the chat, and being appointed to some of these kind of background positions that can end up being very powerful, as well as we had Frank Carretero on the phone on that call, and he is applying to be a judge and has been trying. Now, I know that process to be a judge can actually take 10, 15 years sometimes. Frank's been doing it for about 6, but I wanted to mention that to us. And so obviously we have to be appointed, right? We have to get on, you know, we can't appoint ourselves as judges or onto committees, but at the same time, I do think there is a way to kind of position yourself and navigate things to make that appointment more likely, or there can be things that people can do to help.
Sure.
We see this coming up. Obviously, these inequities and huge problems coming up with the vaccine, as Tony mentioned at the beginning. But could you guys speak to, you know, what can we do to really make ourselves more eligible for appointments and positions on committees, on the bench, and in other ways be more involved, more than voting, because I think all of us that are eligible do that, you know, at least on this call.
So first, I would say, number one, stay informed. You know, there's so much that goes on, and I will say, even myself, I did not have as much of growing up. I voted more so in presidential elections and missed the occasional off year election, and I didn't realize at the time that you know, number one, it's important to vote in every election, because you have no idea that, at least you may not, I didn't, the impact that local government, state government, I mean, it impacts your everyday life. The presidency is important, obviously, but your life will be changed more so by the day-to-day operations that we in the local government and at the state government do. It's one of those things. So I would say, first off, stay involved, stay informed. You know, I think we do a pretty good job of, I know I do, send out a weekly Capitol report, kind of outlining what happens through the week. I'm happy to, you know, if anybody has any questions, if anybody has any you know, they're certain, you can reach out to me through that method. You can call me, email me, whatever. I'll be happy to explain more of what's going on. So that's what I would start with. Second, if you wanted to, if you were looking for some kind of position like that, you know, garner support and get, you can have letters of recommendation. I would be happy to do so. I'd kind of like to know the person a little bit before writing one, but I mean, I'm happy to, you know, I think ultimately one of the main problems that we have is there's just so little representation, Hispanic representation in Missouri. I mean, you know, I was telling Ashley, Representative Ani, that, you know, I want to start a Hispanic caucus. We don't even have enough members to do that. You have to have at least 3 members, and we just don't. And that just goes to show that as a whole, we're being we aren't being represented the way that we should, because we make up a bigger block than that in the state of Missouri. And we should have more people who represent the Latin American community. And I think that's an important part too. So I would say those two things: get involved, work on campaigns, try to get others elected. You know, and this is going to be they're going to change the lines this year. So it's hard to say what is going to, you know, what seats are going to be open. But, you know, if you have a desire to run, and even if, let's say your seat doesn't open up for the House, I recommend school board or anything else, get involved in any way, because you can build the bench, so to speak, that way. So that is what, I mean, those are just some options, some thoughts. Anything I can do, if anybody has anything they'd like me to help them with, I will try. But those are some things that I'm thinking we could do.
Excellent. And Robbie, and if you don't mind, I'm just calling you Robbie, not
That's
to,
fine.
just to be among entre amigos aquí, right?
Right.
But tell us just, if you could, very briefly, and then I'll ask Ashley this as well as Senator Mosley, how did you get into office? Like, what, you know, you're in high school and you say,
Sure,
I think I'm going to run for office one day, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I always wanted to be, I always wanted to, you know, it centers around public service. You know, my background is, I graduated law school in 2008. And then since then, I've been a prosecuting attorney, a public defender, a judge advocate general for the Air Force Reserves, and then in this job. So, you know, I've always had an interest in public service. So for me, and I like law, and I think that's kind of where some of it started with. I always wanted to be a voice for people. I always wanted to help people. And that's kind of where, for me, where the legal component came in. And I figured I would always run someday. But you know, I never really had a direct timeline. And then just one September in 2016 happened. And then I was kind of the opinion that timeline would be bumped up. And then just because I feel like we need good people in office who care. And I get really tired of, there are good people in Jefferson City. There are smart, educated people in Jefferson City. There are also really bad people who don't care. Let's put it that way. I don't want to call them bad, but people who just don't care. People who have self-interests and don't have the desire to help the way that they should, to be in that role and in that capacity. So, you know, I think that's where it started for me. And I just decided in 2018, I don't know, September or sometime in 2018, that the seat was opening up, and if I was going to try, I was going to try, and I did, and you know, won an election, and then won the second one. So,
what was your trick? Did you knock on a lot of doors? Did you?
Sure.
Get a lot. I mean, did you have a huge campaign coffer, or was yours kind of more of a lean campaign?
Yeah. So, you know, when you run for office, I mean, quite frankly, at this level, I think it's a lot about knocking doors, and it's raising money and knocking doors, and just kind of trying to, and it is, for me, you know, scary. I'm not a shy person. And everybody hates raising money. So anybody who's running for office, but you have to, the reality is that it does cost money to run for office. You have to print flyers, you have to have door pieces, you have to send out mail, you have to do all these types of things. And that's kind of how it's done. And it's not something that the raising the money part is not something that everybody loves. In fact, it's probably, if you ask any politician, that's probably one of the things they'll say they dislike the most. But it is an important part of the job. You have to have money to do those things. And then it's knocking doors. And so for me, what happened is at that time I was a prosecuting attorney, and I would get off. I would go in early, get off by 4, and every single evening from 4 to 8, I would because it was at that point, it was I just had a primary. So it was just until August, I would go and I would knock doors from basically 4 to 8 every day. And then on the weekends I would knock doors, and that is essentially how it's done. And it may be, the first time going up to the door for me, it was very, I was nervous about it because, I think the idea of just going to somebody's house and like, hi, you don't know me, but I'd like you to listen to me, listen to me talk for a few minutes, can be kind of intimidating. But quite frankly, it's my favorite part about running for office. I would much rather knock doors and talk to people, because ultimately those are the people who put you there. I mean, it's a matter of winning people over, or at least getting them to like you enough to put, to check your name in the box, so to speak. And while it may be a little bit intimidating, it absolutely was my favorite part. And so for anybody who might be intimidated by that, once you get going, I think the overwhelming vast majority of the people that I talk to are, even if they didn't agree with me, and even if they weren't going to vote for me, they were nice enough. They you could have a conversation with them and they wouldn't. And that part wasn't really bad. I mean, there were a handful of people who, weren't nice, but outside of that, it's not really. I mean, that's just kind of life too. You just kind of have to deal with it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you. I love that you've put that, kind of personal note in there. It is intimidating. And how about you, Ashley? Did you find yourself relying, if you could break it up, say, 20% of my campaign was social media, 80% was knocking on doors, or, 40, 60, or what was your actual election process like? And we've got some great questions coming up but I did want to format this one a little bit differently and really hear your personal stories there, how you got in.
Yeah, so I decided to run for office just a little over a year ago. I am serving my first term, so I started my campaign 5 days. I filed to run for this seat 5 days before Missouri shut down, March 24th. Mm-hmm. So I had the unique experience of running the first campaign I've ever run. This is the first office I've ever run for in the middle of a pandemic. So in my past, I volunteered on campaigns, and I am a door knocker. I love knocking on doors. I love talking with people. I love talking politics. I will talk to a wall if I think it's listening. I'm just a very social person. So that was so easy to me. And so I just couldn't help but think like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? But the good news is I have a marketing background. So yes, social media was a huge part of my campaign. One of the first things I did in my campaign is shoot a video because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to knock on people's doors. I need to give them a taste of my personality without that. And you can only do that. You can only go so far on a website or on social media. Or on mailers, anything like that. So I shot a video that I wrote and produced myself. And wow. It was really kind of casual. And it was me introducing myself and kind of just walking down the street and doing something kind of funny and relatable. And I just wanted people to see that I'm a real person. So we put a lot of money behind that and digital ads as well to make sure that that video got in front of people so they could hear me, they could see me, they could get a flavor of my personality. And I thought that was really the best thing I could do when I couldn't knock doors. We did a lot of lit dropping. We did a lot of mailers, a lot of digital ads, a lot of social media. I called a ton of voters. I called so many voters, and I can't tell you how unhappy people are when they get a phone call from a politician that they weren't expecting. It's not fun, but it really works. I had some great conversations with my neighbors. I really got a taste of what people were looking for in my community. And, I'm so excited to run again in a post-COVID world where I can knock on people's doors.
That's awesome. I love that. And then, you know, we're hearing the elements, right? The phone calls, the social media, telling people who you are, kind of sharing your personal story and also your personality a little bit, right? Like people want to see literally who you are. And door knocking, you know, I think it's here to stay. Obviously, it is definitely a key part. But I also think, gosh, your marketing background must have been a tremendous asset to be able to market yourself digitally right when the pandemic struck. What were your returns, Ashley? Like, was it a squeaker for you? I'm sorry, I haven't looked that up. Or did you win by a wide margin?
I won by a pretty solid margin. I am actually the only Democrat elected in Platte County. So I have a little blue pocket in a very red area. The state representative who served before me won this seat by 85. He flipped the seat by 85 votes in 2018. And I held on to it by 7.5 points this past year.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh, what a fantastic story. So it was flipped by a weensy margin. That's a slim margin. And then you held it blue. And there's a lesson. This is a nonpartisan organization. But speaking, you know, only from my own personal opinions, yay. That's just me. I'm not representing any organization with which I may be affiliated. But what a fantastic story. So, you know, these things get built on, right? You know, like somebody does something, you worked on or somebody before you, your predecessor, and then you've built on that. And that's really, really great. And now it's, you know, up to you, to your credentials and what your work is, right? To hold on to that. So we'll go to Senator Mosley. And Senator, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to answer that question. I know the answer is going to be interesting. I have a client who has a court filing deadline tomorrow, and she just called me. So I'm going to need to take that call. But please tell the group, you'll take over, would you, Tony, just for me? I'll be right back as soon as I can. But that great, you've seen the answers. That's the questions we want. How did you get there?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, for me, I come from a long line of politicians. Started off with my father back in the 70s. He was the first one. He was a state rep for about 11 years. He was in when there was no term limits. After him, his wife took over. After her, my sister took over the seat. After her husband took over the seat. And at the same time, my husband ran for state rep at the same time. And so I'm the last one to join in. I did a little bit of canvassing when my father was running, but wasn't as much into it until 2008 when my sister ran for state rep. So that's how I got more into the knocking on the doors and things like that. I decided to run in 2018 is when I announced during the general election I was running. We knew the seat was coming up. We do also have a political organization that we belong to. So we do work with getting people into different seats. And so we knew that this seat was coming open because the previous person was termed out. So we were trying to figure out who we were going to have run. And it just so happened to be that I decided that I would be the one to run. Had to run against two seated state reps. So I would start to be the one, what do you call it?
The underdog.
Yeah, the underdog. I was not expected to win at all. I had no sponsorship. Nobody was behind me. No union money. No lobbyist money. None of that. So all my support came from constituents. All my money came from constituents. So when people, brag about who I got all these sponsors and all that, it means nothing, in my opinion. And that's always been the case in our family. We've never had the support of those people. So it's always been us being the underdog and winning. So I wasn't scared about running against 2 state reps. It wasn't a problem to me, and I didn't care about them having the sponsorships and the unions behind them. So I use social media a lot. I'm sure Tony can attest to that. Facebook friends.
Yeah.
I use social media, and it was the pandemic for me as well. So that was something new to us. We never ran through a pandemic, something like that. So that was new to us, and we had to figure out how to win an election during a pandemic. So, and figure out when to get out to knock the doors, because you didn't want to do it at a time when people would, frown on you knocking on their door, during the pandemic. So had to strategically figure out when to knock on the doors. So we went out and knocked doors. We dropped literature. That was the main thing I believe we did. Besides the social media, we did robocalling. Probably twice did that, and one mailer. That was pretty much how I ran my campaign, and I came out the top person, luckily and thankfully. And first time ever holding a seat. My win gave me and my made history, because me and my husband is the first couple to hold legislative seats at the same time in the state of Missouri, and the first Black couple in the whole nation to hold a seat.
Let's acknowledge that. Everybody, let's acknowledge that with the shaking of the hands, the jazz hands. Instead of clapping, we can acknowledge her this way. Thank you so much. Go on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And also my win, before my win, we only had 4 Black senators. My win gave us 5 Black senators, so that was another history maker. And I'm the first Black to hold this seat in the District 13. So that's three history making events. So that's pretty much my story.
So you got the trifecta, huh? The first husband and wife team to serve at the same time, the 5th Black senator to be in at the same time, and the first in your district. Is that correct? Very good. That's excellent. That is really amazing. And one of the things I got from what you were sharing was that even though you were told that, hey, you don't have a chance, that you went ahead, you did it. The people know who you are with the interactions you've had, with the history of your family serving the people. And apparently your ancestors did a great job so that they can set the platform for you when you decided that you wanted to run. So that's very important. And to the leaders on this call, if anyone is going to run for school board or run for representative in their district because they want to change things and make their community better, don't be afraid, just get out. The worst that can happen is you don't get elected, right? Would that be the worst that can happen? I was looking on the list to see if Representative Banger was on. I didn't see it. Or Representative Behringer was on. I didn't see it. So I'm going to, besides, there's a question in the chat that just came in, and since I just seen it, I'm going to go ahead and read it. What are the different boards that people can join besides school boards? Miss Angela, are you still there? Could you answer that briefly?
Angela, you're muted.
There I am.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, let me see. Let me try to think of what those are. Might won't come back to me.
Okay, Robert.
Are they meaning like as far as governor appointed boards, or?
Yeah, the state has commissions and boards that we can run, even local county boards, for example. Alejandro, I got on the community review board for the police in Florissant. So there's a new board being made up that we're going to have oversight over our police and how they handle things, and complaints from citizens to the police will be, being part of making the system better. I can't talk too much about it. We're in training, but so we're, things that help make your community better. There is stuff that we don't know that's out there. And a lot of commissions and boards are out there.
Right. There is a whole lot of boards. I would have to try to recite all of those. Would be very hard, but I can get a link. I have a link that I can put in the chat room.
Okay.
Everybody can go there and look to see what you might be interested in doing. I know that they have an application process, so you have to fill out the application on the site. They do a background check on you, and you have to send a picture in, fingerprints, all that. Whoever senatorial district you're in, that senator has to sponsor you if you're chosen. It's good to have people on both sides of the aisle, write in letters to support you if you're interested in joining the board. So that would be my advice. But there's a whole lot of boards. There's school boards. There's child care. They have a child care commission. There's for different universities, they have boards. Optometry. It's all over. So the best thing to do is for me to put a link in there and
yes, ma'am,
and see what you think you would be interested in joining.
Thank you, Senator Mosley. Now I'm going to change topics a little bit. And Robbie, Representative Robbie, I'd like to ask you something you can comment quickly. Have you seen any House bills or any Senate bills or anything that has come through that will be very detrimental to the Hispanic community? And knowing that the Hispanic community is not just, we have professionals, we have blue collars, we have medical people in the state of Missouri, but is there any things that are coming through that we might have to write our local representative to ask them not to vote for it?
Sure. Well, first off, to communicate on that other topic too, it changes from school board and cities and municipalities too. It depends upon counties. I mean, there's with regard to the boards, there's a lot, and it just really depends upon your area. So that's another point too. As far as legislation that would come through, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones, one that really bothers me, it's voting rights. There's always stuff that seems to be negatively impacting the right to vote. And that is, I know that the voter ID law has passed out of the House. It seems to always pass, and I always feel like that's a frustrating part. So the actual, within anything specifically targeted that would negatively impact Latin American communities, I mean, I think there's just a lot of legislation that would negatively impact Latin American communities. I don't know, and people in general. So the first thing I'm thinking about is that, there's constant attempts to try to limit what I would consider the right to vote. And that's probably but other than that, I mean, yes, there's honestly a lot of, there are bills that would affect schools. There are bills that, I mean, just bills that affect first responders. It really just kind of depends upon, what your job, profession, what that is, but it just kind of depends.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Ashley? Or Representative Ashley, I'm sorry. We're all friends, I know, but.
I've been called worse. Same question in terms of legislation?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought was the voter restrictions as well. That's been just really disappointing. I think that, you know, one of the things that I think one of the reasons this question is a little bit difficult to answer is that the Latinx community is so diverse, right? And so so much legislation affects there's legislation that's incredibly broad and there's legislation that's incredibly specific. But, a lot of what we do affects a lot of folks in Missouri, and just, because the Hispanic community is so broad, and, we can be found all over the place. A lot of stuff affects us. So almost all of it, I would say.
Very good. Thank you. Let me go to a question in the chat. Someone, let's see. According to, well, here's some data. According to Pew Foundation, this was sent by Sal Valadez, and thank you, Sal. According to the Pew Foundation, there are between 120,000 to 150,000 eligible Latinx voters in Missouri. Why is this important? The margin of victory in the 2020 presidential election was 12,700 votes. So yes, your vote counts. Do not throw away your vote, please.
Georgia, Tony, Georgia.
Was that in Georgia? The
Yes,
12,000? The 12,000? Yeah. So, and I know we're like, what, 5 to 6% of the population in Missouri, the Hispanics are. But when you count numbers, every vote counts. Every vote counts, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Do not throw away your vote. So let's see, there's another question.
I knew someone that lost an election by 10 votes. So.
Wow.
It does make a difference.
It does. Okay, there's another question. How can people, and I'll address this to Robbie this time, how can people engage in campaigns? What is the work involved in being part of a campaign? Can we commit only a few hours to a campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do whatever, campaigns, a lot of it, most of the time is volunteer work. So you can do whatever amount you're willing to do. And that can start within your community. That can start with, if you're, within a certain area and there's somebody you specifically, the problem I have, a lot of most of our districts are, there are very few districts that are tight. Mine just happens to be one of them. Trump won my district. And so I guess I won at my district and no other Democrat won my district, which is kind of a flip from a couple of years ago, or from several years, from maybe 6 years ago. The point that I'm trying to make is a lot of our districts, they draw them in such a way that the DPI, which is the number of people who vote one way or the other, is typically high. So for one or the other. So you either have red seats or blue seats. My advice would be to, one, find somebody somebody you like, somebody you agree with. That's one thing you could do. Also, you can find seats that are more difficult. So there are a handful of seats in the area that have a closer, like a 50-50 DPI, or maybe even a behind. And those are, quite frankly, the seats that probably need the most attention. And you're welcome to do whatever amount you're willing to do. And that can be knocking doors. That can be making phone calls. That could be doing lit drop, which is basically kind of like knocking doors, but you're not really expected to talk to anybody. You just take, you take your flyers, you take this neighborhood or these streets, you just go up and you put it on the door and you just walk away. Now, if somebody comes out, you can be like, hi, I'm just dropping off literature, and go about it that way. But there are a multitude of things you can do to help. So and I would say ideally what you'd do is you'd find the seats that probably need the help the most and go there, because
Right.
those are the ones that we, I recognize that this is the forum is bipartisan, but I would say that the legislature is 70% conservative. So there are 24 Republicans and 10 Democrats in the Senate. There are 114 Republicans and 48 Democrats, and then 48 Democrats in the House. So I gotta be, if it was the other way around, I don't think I would like that either. I think that super majorities aren't good for people. I think it makes it makes it harder to compromise on bills, because quite frankly, you're not needed. They could pass whatever they want with the people they have. So I'm going to be biased, and that's okay. You're certainly welcome to have your opinions as well. But for me, I'm going to say we need more Democrats in the House, and we need more Democrats in the Senate. And so my recommendation would be, my personal recommendation would be find somebody that you like a lot and help them, volunteer for them, or find one of those seats that really needs help and volunteer for them.
Okay, we're going to ask one question before I turn it back over to Alejandra. This is a question from Jomo Castro. And this question is for all three, the two reps and Senator Mosley, but we're going to do it in this order. Ashley first, Senator Mosley, and then back to Robbie. Here's the question. Could you speak to a piece of legislation that you're actively pursuing, that you are sponsoring or you're passionate about? Again, could you speak to a legislation that you're actively pursuing, that you're sponsoring, or that you're passionate about? And let's take about 1 minute per answer. And again, Ashley, Representative Ashley Oon, and Senator Mosley, and Representative Robbie, in that order.
All right. Yeah. So as Representative Sauls mentioned, being in a super minority is a very unique experience in the legislature, and being a freshman in a super minority makes passing legislation very difficult. I am incredibly lucky, grateful, excited to share that I have a piece of legislation moving through the House right now. It is HB 1325. It is a bill that would protect parents in family court situations from being discriminated against if they possess a prescription for medical marijuana. What we're seeing is, after we passed and legalized medical marijuana in the state and added it to our Constitution, we are still seeing some judges that are using someone's medical marijuana prescription status against parents in custody decisions in family courts. And it's really unacceptable. It's tearing families apart. And it's based on outdated ideas about marijuana. So my bill is a companion bill to a Senate bill that Senator Washington has sponsored. And mine was just passed out of the Emerging Issues Committee unanimously yesterday. So that is my piece of legislation.
Thank you so much. Senator Mosley?
I will agree with her. As a freshman, you can't, it's hard to get legislation through, but some legislation that I feel, this probably will go back to one of the previous questions. They have a bill called SB 26 that passed on the Senate side, unfortunately. And once it passed on one side, it goes to the, well, if it's passing the Senate, it goes to the House for them to pass it as well. And that bill is to prevent people from assembling and protesting, and they're going to if you're caught protesting in the street or on the highways, however, it will be, the first time will be a misdemeanor, the second time will be a harsher misdemeanor, and the third time will become a felony. It started off going straight to felony, but it got amended to try to lighten the punishment. But it's going to be going over to the House, and I believe that, well, I would hope that people would contact their legislators and state reps, state senators to fight this bill on the House side, because like I said, it already passed through the Senate, to block that, because we shouldn't be punished for our right, using our right to assemble and to protest when inequities and injustices are going on in this country. And I believe it was targeted towards the Black Lives Matter organization. That's my personal thought. So that's something that I would passionately want people to contact their legislators for. Another legislation that has been on the radar for a lot of people is the SB 255. It gives vouchers for charter schools, and many are against that because it'll take away money from the public schools. So that's something that it was fought pretty hard on our floor, so it got laid over. So it's may or may not come back up, but that's something you can write your legislator for if that's something that you're interested in. But I don't really have my own passion bills yet, because I want to learn the system first, and I didn't want to get one of those bills that you have to fight for and not know what I was doing.
Yes. I know. It's, Ms. Mosley, wise veterans once said, it's not always good to be first on the beach.
Right.
So you in your freshman year, you want to learn a lot of things, and then, and then you can get your wheels from under you, and then you can get into some of the bills. But you mentioned Senate Bill 26. So basically, if I understand that correctly, you're against it. Correct, because it's going to impact basically the protesters. Instead of being misdemeanors for going in the street or whatever, they want to get to a felony.
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 Eventually it'll get to
felony, right?
Yeah. So thank you. Some days I just can't say the words. Maybe it's because I have a block against that word, right? We really don't want. Yeah. Unless it's.
Well, currently there's no law against protesting in the streets, but this will make it a law to protest in the streets. And like I said, initially the bill said the first infraction would be a felony, but they got it modified to where the first two would be misdemeanors and the third incident would be a felony. And my problem is, right, so my thing is, African Americans are always looked at as criminals by certain people, but it's like you always come up with these bills and laws to try to make us felons.
Right.
The first thing is straight to felony, and I'm like,
right.
Yeah.
Not good. And that's the mean spirit that I think Robbie was alluding to, that we have in the House. We have these, what I call hate legislations. And to me, this falls in that category, because we do have a fundamental right and the First Amendment to protest and gather, right? So Robbie, your third?
Yep. Yeah, another thing too, I think also, if I'm not mistaken, that it was Senate Bill 26 or it's another bill like Senate Bill 26, but it allowed for, you could actually kill protesters if they were in the street, which is just ridiculous.
Well, I think
I don't know if that was 26 or not. I know that that was a bill that was filed, and I don't know if that was something that was taken out, but regardless, completely ridiculous. And another thing I was thinking about, you mentioned that was unique to Hispanics, you know, workers' compensation is constantly under attack. If it's a day that ends in day, they've got something against workers' comp. And that's one of those things that I think would be unique and affect the Hispanic community. As far as bills that I am passionate about, I've got several. I've got a firefighter cancer presumption bill. I've got a firefighter bill of rights. I've got protections for confidential informants. I've got sex offender treatment centers, like some regulations there. Their regulations are very lax, and I think it's quite the problem in Missouri. So that's something I'm trying to do. And I've also got a bill that would COVID-19 presumption for first responders with regard to workers' compensation. As I said, it's always under attack, and it's just they're getting to the point where it's going to be bad if they get their wish list on workers' comp. It is really going to severely impact people who, you know, a lot of blue collar workers particularly. So those are some things that I'm interested in.
Robbie, the workers comp, is that SB 26 again, or was you just segueing to that?
Yeah, sorry. Did do a good job of segueing. Yeah. It has nothing to do with Senate Bill 26, but it is, there's a bill that's floating around that they want to make it so that basically any doctor, they would take and I don't know how familiar you are with workers' compensation. Basically, if you get injured on the job, you're entitled to be compensated for what it's, depending upon what it is, right? So like if you severely impact your shoulder, and let's say you fall and you fall off some scaffolding, or you fall off and you break your shoulder pretty bad, you have to have pins in your arm and you can't use it for a period of time. You're going to be in this situation where, you're entitled to, number one, they're expected to pay your health insurance, and then you're entitled to a portion of what would be considered use for your arm and lack of use for that period of time. And how bad is the injury and how bad does it continue to go? So they have a bill that they want to make it so that, like, and generally this is a battle of doctors, so depending upon what the injury is, but they want to send it to this panel, and it goes to, like, it may be an issue that the doctor doesn't even practice it, right? Which is just ridiculous. And the doctor that doesn't even practice, it's a foot doctor, and here they are commenting on whether or not a shoulder is going to operate effectively for the next 40 years. And it's a bad idea, because what that means is they're going to cherry pick doctors. They're going to find defense doctors. This is the panel. And here's the other problem. There's no, whatever the panel says, like, it's done. So again, podiatrist gets the evidence, and they say, this is worth X amount of dollars, a certain percentage, and that's it. And then the judge is just supposed to go, okay, well, that's it. Sorry. Hope your shoulder's okay. And it just doesn't. These are the constant things that we continue to fight back on, because there's nobody else who's going to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There is nobody else, and we are coming up on the end. And so I just have to say thank you. If Mauricio is still on there, but if it doesn't look like he is, but we'll make it official. He may still watch the end of the recording, and I'll tell him. Mauricio Gobo is a great member of our organization, helps us tremendously. For the three representatives or elected officials, rather, Senator Mosley, Representative Sauls, Representative Ani, thank you so much. I think that this is, I see you dropping information. Haiti is very interested. I hope her questions got answered while I was taking my client call. There is a poll. Please make sure and fill that out. I'd like to ask the speakers to fill it out too. If you have a moment, anything that you can recommend to us, our feedback. thank you so much for your time. I know it was just an hour, but very valuable for those of us, and we have to recruit others and tell everybody what, you know, what we learned here, what the representatives and Senator Mosley shared with us about how to get there, because we're hearing over and over. And truthfully, this is where our privilege comes in, being in Hispanic Leaders Group and the connections that we have. It's going to be difficult for people who, of any ethnicity, certainly within the Latinx community, who are working 3 jobs, who have you know, maybe don't have the education, who are working to put food on the table for their children. They might have a harder time running for office than people with a bit more privilege. And if those of us with privilege can step into these roles, and not saying it's easy for us either, but if we can step into these roles, we can then advocate on behalf of our community in a way that nobody else can, right? So that's our job, literally. I would submit, and those of you that know me on Facebook know I try to organize, and I joke about this, but you can do a lot of organizing. You have to fight the algorithm and post a lot, but I'm not so ambitious as to want to overthrow our government, but you can actually organize even insurrections on social media.
Oh, no.
That's right.
As we have seen recently. So let's not try to overthrow the government. Let's just try to get more elected Latinos into office, right? And support our senators like Senator Mosley and Joe Palm and other people that we know who are doing good work on behalf of the citizens of Missouri. So thank you all for coming. And share this news. Please fill out your poll. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to say,
all opinions are my own. All opinions are my own.
I want to say thank you to everybody. I want to make a quick shout out, and everybody can acknowledge everybody on the call. Marta Castellano, Yvonne Bollinger, Suzanne Sierra, St. Louis Mosaic Project, Robert Raimondi, Maria Teresa Maldonado, Kevin Reyes, Idalia McNulty, Heidi Taylor, Ardo, Elke Henson, Elena Kenyon, Brian P. Dunn, Ben Molina with the Alzheimer's, Ashley. I'm sorry, I have a hard time pronouncing the last name.
Ani.
Ani. And I apologize a million times. We have Alejandro Santiago, the Chamber of Commerce, Alejandro McCrary Ellis, Senator Andrew Mosley, Sal Valadez, Alejandra Johnson, Maria Olivo, she was a co-host, Robert Stiles, which we know as Robbie, and the whole Hispanic Leaders Group want to thank you. The committee wants to thank you guys for participating. And then from here on, if you guys want to stay a few minutes and want to share with each other something, by all means, feel free to do so. Those of you that have to get back to the house or back to your work, please do so very, very carefully. Thank you. And we'll see you next year, hopefully physically at the Capitol.
Hey.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Hey, Tony, could I remind
Yes.
everybody before they leave that there's an upcoming meeting with MALDEF and the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition? I posted it in chat. It's going to take place on Thursday. Is that Thursday? Oh, I've got Thursday, March 1st. It's Thursday, April 1st, if I got it wrong, from 10 to 11:30 a.m. So please email us, or we'll be reaching out to the attendees and inviting them to that very important meeting to discuss barriers for Latinx voters in Missouri.
Very good. Thank you, Sal. Anybody else want to share some notifications?
I wanted to say hola to everybody.
Hola, Idalia.
Hi,
yeah.
we have money to help people with rent. So if you guys need anybody that needs help, contact me, or I can give you the phone number where you can contact the people that are doing it directly. And, you know, we also have other services, but right now we have a very big need for help for rent.
Can you tell us who you're with and what city?
Oh, yeah. I am with Community Action Agency of San Luis, here in San Luis County. I cannot help the people in the city, but I can help people in the county. We help with rent, with paying the gas, electric, food, and things like that. So if you need anybody needs help, let me know.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Idalia. Anybody else?
Yes, candidate, I'm putting it into the chat right now. Candidate Lucas Kuntz, or Kuntz, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, is actually meeting with several Latinos this evening. And so I'm trying to look up the time. It looks like 7:30, a Zoom meet and greet for this evening. If anybody is interested, I know that he will be hosting many of these, so absolutely don't feel any pressure. He is doing outreach on, in various ways, but that happens to be coming up. Sal, Sal, I know that you're going to be on that. That is tonight at 7:30, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. So if anybody is interested, that link, I just sent it out. That's all I have. And, I mean, the big thing is to recruit people. I think a lot of people don't think that they could run for the board, or don't think that they could be on a committee, or just because you're busy and you don't even think about it. But if you know people from your church, like that are super responsible, that if you know people from your kid's school and you're like, man, this dad or this mom, they are always here organizing and fundraising and doing a lot of skills that we use in everyday life apply completely to political activity. You could volunteer and say, okay, like Ashley said, Representative Audney said, just volunteer at the beginning for others and get to know the ropes. And that'll be something that's useful to you. And I guarantee you will learn from being involved also, like, oh, that's a really good idea. I'm going to do that for my kids' fundraiser. Like, it goes both ways, right? Like, it's just, these are skills that are helpful in lots of different ways. And Haiti, I love all your questions. Is there anything we can do to amplify your voice? I mean, we've got electeds on the call here. Let's get you plugged in. I mean, we need you to run for office. Vote Haiti.
Hello, everybody.
Is it Haiti or is it Heidi?
Heidi, I'm sorry.
Heidi. No, that's okay.
It is a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate that you have taken this time to be with us and sharing, your expertise in this area. I am a learner and I'm just very excited. I am in Lincoln County, but I work as a teacher in the San Luis area. But one of the things that you mentioned, and also on the first meeting we had, was related to a school board of education. And one of the things I noticed, because I am in the Winfield School District, and I was curious about that before we have this meeting. So it was just very encouraging to hear that this is just an opportunity for Latinos to just start in that process of learning. Just to become a politician, because I know this is not easy. Although I am always in front of my students or presenting in conferences, this is just a totally different field. But I am very active in trying to support education, especially for all students. And that's why I share about the BEST Act. And that will be wonderful. You will have an opportunity to co-sponsor this act because it's related to syllable literacy, and we will support our English language learners and also all students who are learning a language in Missouri. We know that we want our students to become global citizens, and what a great opportunity just to master a second language. So it's just a great opportunity for that, and I appreciate Alejandra, just for giving me an opportunity just to talk about that. I am also president-elect of the Foreign Language Association of Missouri. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach me in relation to education and language. I'm working also with the DESI Acceleration Committee that it was formed this summer because of the pandemic. So I'm collaborating with that too. So an opportunity again to support education in Missouri. Thank you.
Heidi, did you say you're from Wentzville? This is Sal Valadez.
Oh, I am in Lincoln County.
Lincoln County. Okay, we'll be reaching out to you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yvonne Bollinger had some news to share with us.
Sure, certainly. So there are two events this weekend related to COVID-19. There is a vaccine event at the Victor Roberts building in St. Louis City. And that is on Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There are lots of openings for vaccines on those 2 days. It's an event that includes a number of entities. It's led by Centene Corporation, and Affinia Healthcare is participating along with a number of other healthcare entities. If you go to the link that I put in the chat, you will see, you can see the details of the particular zip code where people need to live. They need to live in particular zip codes to be able to make an appointment for the vaccines on that, on this Saturday and Sunday at that location. Affinia Healthcare is providing a free shuttle transportation on Saturday. On both Saturday and Sunday, people can also ask for transportation, like individually, like not through the shuttle. But if people prefer to come in groups, that sort of thing, the shuttle will be available at our Biddle location, 1717 Biddle. So that's one. Then testing, don't forget that COVID-19 testing, if people have any symptoms, is still super important to protect families, to protect friends, protect, you know, the people around us in our community. If you have not been vaccinated and you have any kind of symptoms that you're worried about, please be tested. So that there's a free testing event in collaboration between Affinia Healthcare, Hispanic Festival, Inc., and Comunidad STL, and that is in Bridgeton. I also put the Facebook link on there so that you can see the details. So click on those two, save them to your phone or computer so you can have all the information, or just go to the Affinia Healthcare Facebook page and you can find it there.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. Lovely. Lovely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all, everybody. I think we, we'll go ahead and end it now. I hope that, I mean, in the past we've had, who is it that sings with us, Tony, that goes to the bar afterwards?
Oh, that would be Guillermo and Jay Mosley.
I was going to say, isn't it one of the Mosleys that
Yes.
I have video of, and a couple of other people that, yes, we would love to, maybe next year, hoping that we're far enough. I know we've had vaccine distribution issues, but Yvonne is like a one-woman powerhouse trying to get everybody in Missouri vaccinated all on her own, and doing wonderful work working with the whole team. So hopefully we will, we'll conquer this and be in a different place for next year. But thank you very much for all of your time. And Tony, unless you have anything else, I'll go ahead and end it.
Unless anybody has any burning desire to mention anything, we'll go ahead and end the meeting.
Yvonne, this is Sal. I just sent you a list. Contacts list.
In email?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay,
bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Hey, there's Jay.
I see Jay.
There's Jay, Mr. Jay. How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Great to see you guys. Somebody take a screenshot of that.
I was just talking about you. I'm like, who's that singer? Who's the one that comes to sing?
Let's see that screen again. Go ahead, Mr. Mosley. Let's see. I am.
Let's see. Oh, I think Tony froze up, but I do have a screenshot. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, bye, guys. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye. Be safe, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for having us. Hey,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Take
Hey,
care.
Jay. Hey, guys.